On today's episode, we'll talk about the importance of making a good cup of tea, The Princess Bride, aliens, remembering to relax and enjoy yourself, and of course, the boom op with the pink shorts. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to The Op, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I'm Dave Comides, your host, and I am coming to you yet again. It's actually been a while because I've been out of town from the theater at Panavision Woodland Hills. So thank you to them for having us here because it sounds better than the raised flower bed in the backyard. I have a great guest here today, a friend from years back and someone who I actually owe a tremendous amount of my career to, Terence Nightingall. Terence, among other things, is known for, 127 episodes as the operator on NCIS Los Angeles. He tends to stay places for a while. Scrubs, ER, 212 episodes. And as a camera assistant, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Willow, The Princess Bride, Aliens. He has directed both ER and NCIS, and along with his wife, co-wrote a show for NCIS as well that he directed. I think you directed it as well. So he's a multi-hyphenate. Terence, thank you for being here.
You're welcome, buddy.
It's good to see you.
Good to be here. It's good to see you.
It's I've been wanting to have you on here for a while and just haven't gotten to it. And the amount of history that you and I have, it's kind of amazing. Terence and I met on my first day of ER, and he was the camera assistant. I was the operator who didn't know what he was doing, and he basically saved my ass and made sure I didn't screw up. But we'll get to that. So tell me your story. How'd you get here?
Starting off in the business, I was a business kid. My old man was in the business. He was a boom operator.
This is across the pond?
This is across the pond, back in the UK, yeah. He was a very successful boom operator, worked on a lot of big pictures.
And what was his name?
Ken Nightingall.
Yeah.
And so I grew up as a kid in the business, and just to keep it short, I think when I came of age to leave school, the old man said, "Hey, so do you want to come in the business?" And I was like, "Yeah, nah, don't think so." Because I used to call him the man in the suitcase. He was the fella that used to go away for so many months and then come back with a suitcase full of gear and maybe a few bits and pieces and then bugger off again. And I was like, I'm not sure about whether I really want to do that. So anyway, my stubborn way, I said no. I went off and did surveying for a couple of years as a young lad.
What's surveying?
Surveying of land. I was a land and building maintenance surveyor. So what we actually do, the company I was with actually had a huge contract with the government. So I would actually go off to ball stores and prisons in the UK.
Go off to what was the first thing?
Ball stores.
Ball
stores are a teenage, basically open prison, which is like
we call it juvie here almost.
Almost,
juvenile detention or whatever.
Exactly,
oh, wow.
Exactly. So they're very much open prisons for teenage kids. Prior to actually 18-year-old or full service in prison. Anyway, believe it or not, these places never had accurate plans.
So wait, but I don't understand. So what are you actually doing? Like you're surveying the land to get the borders?
Well, then we would take things like a theodolite, and we would actually draw up maps of the land and also draw accurate plans of the buildings, including all the cell blocks and all the dormitories, everything. We surveyed everything. So our job was to have a complete survey of buildings and land owned by the government in these prisons and ball stalls.
I had no. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was-
This must take months, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I would go off on contracts for months. So I would, go away from Monday to Friday in various areas of the UK and get the train back to London for the weekends, and then go back out and do this for months. Anyway, that was interesting for a while, and it was pretty good for a young guy like myself because I moved up the ranks pretty quick. But then it came to crunch point where they were like, well, we want you to develop, move further through the ranks of the company, which requires you to go to college and study this. It meant that I had to go to night school or day college to further educate myself in the career of surveying, and that wasn't for me. So at that point I was like, nah, I'm done with that. Plus, within the company I was with, I could see above me. I looked at the quality of lives that those guys had, and I thought that's not enough for me. And it just so happens at that period of time, when I spoke to my father about it, he said, well, I just so happened to be talking to a guy that has a camera rental company, and they're looking for somebody. Would you be interested? And I jumped at it and I said, yeah.
And how old are you at this point?
So I think I was about 20, let's see, so 18, 19, I was about 21.
So you surveyed for like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Did that for 2 or 3 years, and then it came to the crunch.
Yeah.
Also played very serious football at that time. Never quite made the pros, but that job also suited me because I would travel around the UK and I would end up playing for different states and counties in the UK playing football with my assistant, who was a goalkeeper, and I played midfield. Anyway, so it was a really fantastic time.
Wait, you were actually good enough that like you were sort of you might have made it into the pros?
I had a couple of trials to play pro, and
I didn't know that.
I didn't quite make it, but I played semi-pro.
Wow.
Almost most of the time. And anyway, back to so the company was a company by the name of CineFocus, and it was owned by Tony Cavell. Tony Cavell was a camera maintenance engineer, and back in the day, like when my dad was away working on feature films, going to Africa, around the world, whatever, for long periods of time, between 3 and 6 months, they would take a camera engineer as part of the camera team. So obviously, if there was any mechanical or engineering problems on location, they would have an engineer that could fix the problems.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Anyway, that was what this Tony Cavell did. And then, of course, with everything else, with the business changing, it came to the point where they weren't taking engineers on locations anymore. So guys like him had to come up with other ideas of things.
Yeah.
So he started a camera rental company, and it mainly dealt initially with 16 mil. It did develop a little bit into 35 mil. But anyway, so I left surveying, having a rather, a pretty good senior or mid-level position. With my own car, my own expenses. Life was pretty good. And then I went to a camera rental company, and I ended up cleaning boxes and driving a van and making the tea. And that was a little bit of a struggle initially until I actually started to open the boxes, and started to clean the cameras and learn about them. And that was how I started. And that wasn't an easy first step.
Sure.
But anyway, I persevered with it and stayed with the company, I think, for about another 3 years. And fortunately, through this company, they had another department. They had 2 in-house cameramen. And these 2 in-house cameramen would work on a lot of documentaries or BBC News magazine type programs and things like this. So obviously, spending time, I got to know the 16mm cameras pretty well, and obviously progressed forward to an assistant cameraman, and ended up going out on these documentaries and starting to learn my first experience as a camera assistant.
That's cool.
And we did it was good. We did a lot of industrial type shows. So it was great. We would travel around the country, and go through these various businesses. Also, some magazine programs were pretty good. Ended up doing a particular photography series that took me all around the world, doing all the various areas of photography, from using filters to
Wow.
landscaping to portrait with a pretty well-known photographer. His name was John Hedgecoe at the time, and a quirky old dude, but anyway, it was funny. So
And when you say camera assisting, were you pulling focus? Or you,
yes,
okay.
I was
everything else,
loading
yeah.
the magazines,
Sure.
pulling focus, setting the camera up,
So you were it.
putting the slate in, doing the sheets, putting the marks down, making the tea. It was very involved. It was a lot, which actually really paid off for me when I finally moved on from 16mm documentaries, when I finally moved over into drama.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point I thought, well, I'm either clapper loading or I'm either pulling focus. And I thought, well, this is rather easy compared to what I was doing.
'Cause you're only doing one
As an
thing.
assistant, I was doing like
Relative.
20 things. And as a loader, it was like, well, you got to load the film, do the sheets, and make the tea, and put the marks down, and make sure the boys are happy.
Now,
I can
because
do
you've
that.
mentioned it a couple times, when you're working in England, is making the tea a very, like, if you don't make the tea well, do you not get the next job?
Without a doubt. I think at the top of my resume, it would always say the highest paid and the best tea maker in the business. And then after that, it would say, oh, yeah, by the way, I can also load and do sheets.
But
and
more
put marks
importantly,
down.
the tea. Okay,
But
I
more
got you.
important,
All right.
yeah. And I was renowned for that.
Really?
I mean, my guys that I work with were drowning in tea. You know, we used to have the big old wooden clapper boards,
Yeah.
which was a perfect tray. So I could get I
that's
could get the
great.
governor, I could get the director, all the camera team, and of course the continuity girls, of course, that were part of our team. So I was constantly going in and out and making tea. I had a travelling tea, a travelling teapot. I had a whole box of tea making equipment that went right with me on every job all around the world. I mean, I have pictures of I have a great picture, amazing picture. We was working on Willow in New Zealand, and we were in Queenstown, and we were there in July, obviously for the snow, and that was amazing. We used to travel because we were shooting up on top of the glaciers, so we would have like a 20-half-hour helicopter ride from the airport of Queenstown up over the mountain ranges to the glacier that we were going to shoot on. You know, great things, like all the equipment was in a net underneath the helicopter. So, you know, we'd jump out of one helicopter and then the other helicopter would be lowering down and we'd get all the equipment out of
that's
the net
amazing.
and stuff like that. And out of all that, I would always still part of that camera box team was my teapot, and was my, because I didn't go anywhere without that. And I have a great picture of special effects setting up like a gas burner, and on that gas burner is my teapot, and right next to the teapot is all the cups ready for the tea.
I know.
And
the
this is
picture
on a
you're speaking
glacier.
of. Yeah.
It's
for,
like,
for anybody listening to this, go to the op.io to Terence's page on the website when this comes out, and that picture will be probably front and center.
yeah, I
among
remember.
others.
Oh, I think one of the Lee's boys, the electricians. I think his name was Larry. He was the best boy. He was like all the Lee boys were all comedians, and you know, he would get always set up power for me. The first thing he'd say, "Tell, where do you want your tea, mate?" So that was before.
You gotta have your
That was
priorities.
before we even rolled a camera in or whatever. They'd always say, "Tell, where do you want your feed, mate?"
That's
Because I
awesome.
would always make them a cup of tea as well, you know. So
Yep.
they would love that.
But there's something to be learned from that, because the reality is, if you have 5 people and one of them makes unbelievable tea and the other 4 don't, you know who you're going to hire back on the
well,
next one.
it actually,
It's
in
important.
those days, actually, it was the clapper loader's responsibility.
Was it? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
without a doubt, yeah. It's like, can you load film? Yeah. Well, let's not talk about loading film. How's your tea? You know, what's your colouring of your tea? How's your tea, mate? And that was out, and you got more jobs out your quality of your tea.
Yeah.
Because I was never the best. I was never the best technical.
But you didn't need to
technician.
be.
But no, my two greatest jobs was I could supply tea all day, and also I was the entertainments manager. So whenever we was on location, it was always my job to sort out the restaurants, the nightclubs, and that was my forte. So wherever we were on location, and my job was I would find out where the nearest nightclubs are and the best restaurants, and I'd call them up and say, "Hello, you know, I'm so and so, and I'm representing. You know, we're here. We're doing a movie from the UK, from England. I've got all these stars here. Blah 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 blah. You know, we would love to come and check your place out, whether it be nightclub or whatever.
Yeah.
So, we go to nightclubs, and I'd come to the front door, and I'd have the boys with me, and they'd say, Mr. Nightingall, yes, that's me, Governor, I'm right here. Then they would open up the fence, and they'd take me through, and they have all these VIP areas.
Oh, this explains so much. So you've actually been doing this for a long time. Because anybody who knows Terence knows that you definitely enjoy a good restaurant, and you have inns at all sorts of places. So this is part of the Terence Nightingale, like the map of your life.
It is.
Okay, that's fantastic.
We're supposed to be talking about cameras, but
whatever.
But hey, this, in my day, this was part of what being the camera team and the clapper loading.
Well, look,
was
one of
all
the
about.
first ones that I have, I think it's the second one that I posted, was Rochelle Brown, who I don't know if you know her, but she's a young Steadicam operator. But she was Robert Richardson's sort of personal PA for 2 years, and she said, they brought me everywhere with them because I knew exactly what he wanted, and I knew how he liked his coffee and this and that. And I took care of him. And she said, and that was my job, and it was perfectly fine, because now she just made a short, well, not just anymore, but she shot a short, and she calls up Rob Richardson and says, can you give me advice on this or whatever? Yeah. But, there's a reality to what you're talking about how you get ahead in this business. Sure, the technical, no question about it. You got to be able to do stuff. But it's the other stuff that's almost as important, if not more important.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, it certainly was in those days. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that has sort of burnt off in the way the industry's moving today. And part of my thing, I mean, even though I'm on my last legs now within the business, part of the greatest enjoyment for me, what I want to do, is try and nurture any younger members on the set, and they don't even have to be in camera. I've had young guys like young set dressers, and younger people tend to very nervous, very tense, and this is so serious about what I'm doing. And I look at them and I take them aside. I'm like, well, first of all, relax. Yeah. This is a job, and it's one of the greatest jobs in the greatest businesses you could ever be involved in.
Agreed.
This is something to be enjoyed. It's an amazing opportunity. So, part of it is to teach people to relax and enjoy this business. But admittedly, listen, when the red light goes off, there's no doubt about it.
You got to do
your business, right? But in between setting up and everything else, it's supposed to be fun. The business that I grew up in, we laughed all day. Especially back in Blighty, where we came from. If you're not taking the piss out of somebody about something, then you ain't doing your job properly. So if you're not getting slagged off by somebody, you ain't doing your job properly. So this is how we grew up. So, unfortunately, today I have to be really careful about that because logistics have changed.
It's changed a
little.
little.
Etiquette have changed.
There's no question.
And what we used to say and what we used to do when I came in the business is very much different for today.
I will say that one of my earliest memories on ER, because I came in and I didn't know what I knew somewhat what I was doing, but I was not of that level, was just how much fun you made it and how much fun we had. And I remember thinking all right, I'm going to get fired, but I had a lot of fun for this week. And then 2 weeks, and I was like, well, I made 2 weeks. I'm, of course, going to get fired, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but you haven't changed. You still say that today.
I do, exactly. I have complete imposter syndrome.
That's your ammo.
It is. It's completely. It's the way I go through life. I mean, I look at my wife, and I'm like, yeah, we've been married for 29 years, and it's been fun, but clearly it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
It gets me through the day.
Well, that's part of your humor and part of your charm, which is great for sure.
So what was you remember the first job you had as a clapper loader on a dramatic movie or TV show, or?
Yes, and it was a complete, in some ways, disaster. It was Superman 3.
Okay.
And I was on the model unit.
So miniatures.
The miniatures.
That's funny.
Yes.
That's where I started out.
So here we are. We have this amazing model sets. It was really boring, to be honest, because everything took so long to set up.
It's so slow.
The actual shooting of it is minuscule.
No, it's like, as I remember it, it's like, okay, we're going to work on this for 4.5 weeks, and then we'll roll the camera for 30 seconds, and then we'll look at it.
I know. It totally, from that movie, I said to myself, well, here's the first thing I've learned. I'm never working on a special effects unit again.
Yep.
I have to do live. I have to be around people. Anyway, shortly back to this story.
Yeah.
Just because I'm sure there are people that can relate to this. It was the first mess up that I ever did. So here we are. They've got this amazing set, and I think it's where I can't remember. There's like a huge fire that happens in the city, and I think it was where Superman flew over and he froze the clouds, and he was pushing the clouds over the city, and then he would heat up so all the rain would fall and anyway, something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, this whole effects city was burning, so we shot it. And right, okay, we got that one later. Okay, thanks. ERTL is the magazine. So for some reason or another, I'm not thinking. I go in the dark room, and I didn't switch the light off. And it was the old Mitchell magazines.
I was going to ask you, it was Mitchell.
So they were like
the Mickey Mouse.
They were like
ears.
the Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah.
So you had to screw
Yep.
the bloody thing off. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking, God knows what I'm thinking about. But anyway, I'm unscrewing the lid, and then I lift the lid and went, shit, the light's on. And
God.
then put the lid straight back down again. And anyway, just cut a long story short, I got a bollocking from the producer and the production manager because I did tell the focus puller, and he said, right, tell me exactly what happened. So I went in, I said, boom. He said, no, you should be all right. Anyway, wrong. I didn't ruin it. It was okay. But what happened is I flashed the edges of the film, which is they could make that work. Anyway, they sorted it out. But I did get my first bollocking about that and said, if that ever happens again, not only do you come to the focus puller, you come and tell me, the producer or the production manager.
Yeah.
So a very valuable lesson. Anyway, I didn't do that again. Once was enough.
Do you remember how you responded to that? I mean, did it just spin you out, or did you?
I never slept.
Yeah.
I think I was in cold sweats at home.
We've all been there.
You know, yeah, of course we have. We've all been in that position.
Hopefully at the beginning of our careers.
I thought my career's just starting and now it's over.
It's over.
I'm out. I'm going to be fired. It's the end of my business. And, you know, what's my dad going to say? You know, I'm an embarrassment to the old man. Anyway, I got over it and just moved on and took that as another knock on the shoulder and just moved forward with that business. Yeah, so it was Superman 3 was the first clapper load-in. But before that, was it? No, it was after that. Yeah, so yeah, I think it was Superman, and then, you know, went on and did there was a couple of people that I was lucky enough to work with. There was an old cameraman, Brian West, who's recently passed a few years ago, that I loved working with. But most of the films... Oh, there was a fun film. It was... I think we were at Pinewood, and I came in and worked, and it was the Santa Claus, the movie. And I think it was Huddleston, I'm not sure, was something like that his name was, that played Santa Claus. And we had Dudley Moore, who played one of his... You know, and I always remember I came in one morning and I thought, what the fuck, what's going on here? And we had like 12 reindeers. They had
actual reindeers.
They'd shipped these reindeers.
It's the coolest business
from
in the world.
somewhere in Europe. And Janos Schwartz was the director.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved him. He was so much fun. He would laugh all the time and take the piss. It was so much fun. But yeah, and I remember that, and I thought, how crazy is this business that they've shipped reindeers to Pinewood Studios? And they were amazing sets, you know. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, the Santa Claus movie.
No, I don't think so.
They did amazing sets, you know, where Dudley and all these little workers were in there, and they were fantastic.
That's cool.
Sets, working sets. That was certainly one of the...
And then you worked on The Princess Bride as a clapper loader, which I remember when I found that out, I don't think I talked for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to work on Princess Bride. Well, actually how that started was I got offered to clapper load on Aliens.
You did that first?
With James Cameron.
Wow.
Yes. And God, I can't think of his name now. But anyway, so I go on the set the first time. I know the operator and the focus puller.
Is this at Pinewood or?
I think this was at Pinewood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like it was, yeah.
I think it was at Pinewood.
Which are like massive stages, right?
Massive stages, yeah. So many stories about this. Anyway, I'm really mates. I'm in now with a crew, the operators, Sean O'Dell, Focus Puller, Martin Hume, and I got a break, so then I become their loader. So we're like a little team, and we vary with different cameramen. So anyway, we get offered Aliens, and I can't remember who the cameraman was now. I can see him, but I can't. Anyway, he came in.
Turn your ringer off.
He came in.
You want me to look it up so you can say it?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be on there.
Hold on. No, what do you mean? IMDb?
Yeah,
Hold
but
on
I
one
don't
second.
know if they'll have him on there as the beginning camera because he was only there for less than 2 weeks. This is part of the story that I'm saying. So
all right.
we
so,
meet this
so wait,
cameraman.
so hold on. Go back to
So we get So I get offered Aliens with my operator Sean O'Dell and my focus puller Martin Hume. We're a little team. So we inherit a cameraman who I can't think of his name at the moment, and he's a very
Adrian Biddle was the main one on there.
yeah, but no,
But this
Adrian
was
took
someone-
over.
I gotcha. Okay.
From the original.
So yeah. Okay. So there was someone there who started it.
He started it, and I thought to myself, because I saw what was going on. I've been around enough now to see characters. So I see Cameron is on the set, and Cameron's very American style. He's like he doesn't leave the set. He's always working on the set, so he's always in around. So even when you're lighting, he's always fiddling about, doing stuff, working stuff out. You just have to work that way. So this cameraman came in, and he was very much old school English principles. So he would come in, very upright, had his box of meters that I was taking care of. He would say, remind me the boy, righto, governor, here comes your meter. Which meter would you like, governor? Whatever. So anyway, so I'm watching the first lot of rehearsals, and I see Cameron. He's like, okay, great. So that's it. And we're like, I put the marks down, and Sean's there. We've lined it all up. It's all great. And then the camera goes, right, okay, thank you, lads. Right, everybody clears the set. And I'll be ready in 25 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And I saw the look on Cameron's face, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to go down well. So, and he was like, what? And he's like, yes, I want everybody off the set. So this is what they did. This is what the old English-style cameraman did. They would see a rehearsal. We'd get all the marks. You have your stand-ins, and they would work with your operator and your cameraman.
Yeah, and now it's my time. You had your time.
The
now it's my
operators
time.
would say, so the cameraman would come to the operator would line the shot up with the director, and then the cameraman would come and say, the operator would say, right, over there, my right-hand edge of frame is not going to go any further than that position over there, and my left-hand edge of frame is going to be over there, and I won't tilt any higher than there. So basically what he was doing, he was giving a picture of a square, rectangle, whatever it was, where the cameraman could set his lights outside the frame. Yeah. Right? Old school.
That's the English system.
That's the English system of how it used to work. So, anyway, this went on for a little bit, and I could see it was driving Cameron crazy. And I thought, well, this ain't going to last well. Anyway, I was right. So they got rid of him. And that was where Adrian Biddle come in, who had himself a great reputation. I think he had done a lot of work with Ridley Scott, RSA for his commercials and stuff like this. And maybe he'd done a couple of other little films. So he was the new up-and-coming guy. Anyway, they got him. He came in, and he was a terrific guy. Pretty quiet. Wasn't your most social guy, but he was okay. He was good. He let us all get on with our stuff. And... and everything else kind of went on from there.
But that movie must have been an amazing thing for you to be on as a young loader, because, I mean, the sets were incredible,
Amazing.
right? I mean, talk about, like, otherworld, sci-fi. Like, we'd never seen anything like that before.
Right.
At a level.
Not only the mechanics of working the aliens, and, these guys would come on, and there'd be like 20 guys with all these cables coming out from the back of the aliens, whatever the the body that they're showing and the faces, and they've all got these cables and these levers that they're pulling and shoving, and it's making the whole. It was absolutely incredible.
Wild.
And I also remember, one of the scenes. There were these scenes where all these bodies were encased in the wall, and and like the aliens would come out their stomach, and walking by them on the set, they were so brilliant. I remember just
the aliens, you mean?
The bodies,
the bodies, and
like the production design for that. No, I mean, yes, of course, the aliens. Working was fantastic, but just walking. And I remember just stopping by one of these walls, and it had all these bodies and heads and arms all encased in the wall. And I thought myself, just so brilliant. They were just so realistic.
Wow.
Just so realistic. Just a visual brilliance. But yeah, there was all kinds of things that went on. Like we almost, we had, when they had that big armored vehicle. So they're all in the big armored vehicle, and they're all sitting inside, and they're moving off to some location or whatever. Anyway, so we're in this huge stage at Pinewood Studios, and we have all the cameras lined up against the back wall. We're literally against the back wall. We have black drapes that are probably 50 feet high, really thick. So we're all on, the dolly's got all the cameras set up against the wall, and it's this armored vehicle is coming towards camera. So they're saying, obviously they've said, right, so you're going to come forward. So we've got all these various sizes. And obviously, with the stunt guys or the driver, right, so you start braking here because it's going to take, 15 yards, 20 yards, even by hitting the brakes for it to stop. So to be safe, you hit the brake here, and you're going to stop here. You're going to stop in plenty of time, and safety from the cameras. Well, that all went out the window. This thing's coming towards us. All of a sudden you feel like, is he braking? Is he going to hit the brake? That thing's still like coming towards us, and then you hear all the screeching and the noises, and you think, oh yeah, is it the brake? You think, how close is this thing supposed to get to us? Because it's like real. Anyway, the next thing you know, this thing is coming at us. The next thing you know, we're like, fuck this. Jumped off the cameras. We're all scraping up the drapes. Well, this thing stopped. It touched the front of the dolly. Literally, and stopped. Yeah, I mean,
but everybody's up the drapes.
Everybody was okay. Nobody really got, I mean, I think we all had to go to the bar after that and have a few large ones just to calm ourselves down. But this was the kind of show that all kinds of stuff. We got shot, we got burnt.
But that's also, by the way, classically sort of a James Cameron movie is like pushing limits all the time.
Pushing limits all the time. Yeah, we had certainly things. We'd have these big guns they put on the Steadicam.
I was going to ask you about this.
And they'd fight. We'd be in front of that. We got plastic shields. Because I helped pull focus on a lot of extra stuff as well. As well I was clapper loading, so they throw up extra cameras out in those days, and so I'd be in there pulling focus. And literally, we'd come home with burn marks on our arms, or literally. Just the fire from the guns firing these bloody things, the percussion, you'd end up getting, marks on your, getting it on your bloody body.
Well, let me ask you, because you brought it up, because we're both Steadicam operators. Do you remember them putting these vests on with these arms? And you remember, did they fight this, or like did it become natural to them?
No, it became natural to them. It's like they just.
It had to be horrible.
They had the body harness with these big arms, and then they clipped these huge machine guns,
which weren't balanced, really, right?
No, fortunately, these actors were young actors.
Yeah.
They were fit. They were.
Well, the one I always think of is Vasquez, who's that. She must have been 5 feet tall, maybe.
Yeah, and she had that thing. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So the actors got beat up.
Yeah,
on this as well. I mean, all of us were getting beat up on this. We had things like, inside the vehicle, or not inside the vehicle sometimes, but also inside this main ship when it was supposed to be traveling and the whole set was supposed to be rocking. And I remember the camera on Sean's shoulder, and this camera literally right over him, with his little video monitor, and he would get hold of the magazine and he would shake the shit out the magazine, and he's banging against Sean's head, and I can hear Sean saying, well, I won't tell you what he said, but you can imagine some of the things he was saying.
Sure.
And at that point, Cameron wasn't exactly the most favourite with the camera team, for sure. So I'll give you two other stories, and then we'll get off this one.
They're great, though.
So the first assistant on this picture is a guy called Derek Cracknell, and we had like 2 top first ADs that did all the big pictures. Dave Tomlin was another one. So Derek Cracknell was a guy that run the set, and I mean run the set.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, he would set everything up for the governor, and he, you know,
Wait, who's the governor?
The governor would be Cameron.
The director. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, he would get everything. We get everything set, camera set, extras, whatever we need, special effects, whatever. He'd have it all ready, and he'd say, right, oh, governor, we're ready for you now. They'd say, bring on the governor. So Cameron, you know, would come in, and Cameron struggled with this because anybody that's worked with Cameron knows that he has to be the head honcho.
Okay.
He's the guy that runs
Yeah.
things. He's like,
And everybody
everything.
needs to know that.
And everybody needs to know that. So it was interesting because now this was his first picture.
This is a first
union picture.
because he'd done Terminator.
He'd done Terminator, which was
just happened to be a
I
hit,
think.
kind of. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So this was his first big union picture, and not only is it his first big union picture, it's his first big union picture in the UK, not in the States.
Which is a different set of rules, basically.
First of all, we don't even know who he is, or care who
Or
he
care.
is, or care who he is. Right? He's just another guy coming through
Yeah.
that's got his vision, and we're
Yep.
going to do what we can.
Yeah.
Anyway, for him, so there ended up being conflict. So now his wife at the time was Gal and
Galen Hurd, sure.
right?
Who was
Who
the
was
producer,
the producer,
or
on it.
executive producer.
So
yeah.
you know, they're two
Yeah.
very powerful positions. Anyway, so obviously he got the ump. He was getting the ump more and more, or getting upset. The fact that Cracknell was running everything and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like he was running it. That he was the governor. Anyway, they fired him. They fired
who?
They fired Derek Cracknell.
Oh, okay. Who you said is the
He's
number?
like, he's top guy, and
top of the top.
we
Yeah.
all know he runs it, top guy.
Yeah.
So my governor, the operator, Sean, and everybody else said, right, you fired him, pulled the plug on the camera, and said, right, we all walk away. Everybody on the set walked away.
He goes, we go.
No, camera goes, exactly.
Wow.
So if you fire Derek, you fire all of us.
That's
The
fantastic.
props, the dressers,
Yeah.
the sound, camera, everybody. We walked away. He said, if you're firing him, you fire all of us.
Amazing.
So, anyway, he was back by the end of the day. so,
That's awesome. I love that.
all right, there's one
Yeah.
other story that's brilliant about this with Cameron. So, once again, we're on one of these huge sets. Doors are closed, filling it with smoke to get the right atmosphere for this. So we're almost at the perfect place with the right intensity of smoke. The lights are hitting the smoke in the right way. The camera's all in the position. It's perfect. We're just about getting ready to go. And then behind us in the distance, all of a sudden, the stage door starts to slowly open.
Oof.
And it's opening, and it's opening, and it's opening. So, and it's brilliant sunshine outside, which is strange because it's in England. But this particular day, it was really sunny. So we turn around, and all of a sudden, all the smoke is starting to pour out. Well, Cameron's lost his shit. What the fuck is this? What's going on here? So we look over towards the doors, and as they're opening, bright light, there's a silhouette of this little old lady pushing this 2-tier trolley onto the stage. Because in England, we have tea breaks in the morning and we have tea breaks in the afternoon.
And nothing gets in the way of that, right?
And nothing gets in the way of that. We have 15-minute break in the morning and a 15-minute break in the afternoon for sandwiches, teas, cakes, and a cup of Rosie Lee, of course. So Cameron's like, lost it. What? All the smoke's pouring out. We've lost the moment. And here comes old Mabel with a 2-tier tea trolley. And we're all like, all right, lovely cup of tea, boys. Thanks very much.
Everybody gets off the camera.
Everybody gets off the camera. It's just like tea break. And Derek's like, right, tea, boys, you know. Cameron lost his shit.
Oh, this is fantastic.
There was all these, rules and regulations and things at the time, which we still had in the UK about our set laws.
That's fantastic.
Anyway,
I love that. That's great.
That was a brilliant
Those
story.
are all fantastic stories. So, now I have to ask you about the Princess Bride, though.
So anyway, things are good. We end up with we've got Adrian Biddle now as our DP. We've got a good rap going. And, Rob Reiner's coming over with Princess Bride, and, they've liked the track record from what went on with Aliens, and so Adrian gets offered the job. So now we're going on to Princess Bride, which was just the job of a lifetime.
Yeah. How so?
In so many ways that we laughed all day, every day.
I'm so happy to hear that, because that's what you want to hear. And I've worked with Rob Reiner. Sorry, Carl Reiner.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's hysterical. He's
just a big, squeaky, cuddly bear.
Yes.
Is what he is. And and we talked sports all day, comparison, soccer, football, NFL, baseball, cricket. You name it, we talked about comparisons. We would tell him all about our sports. He would do comparisons. So we talked about sports and situations all day long. In fact, so much time that, the first day he'd say, guys, can we please line up the shot? And Rob would go, oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Can we please rehearse this so we can get something done today? This went on throughout the whole picture.
That's great.
Just so much fun.
My question to you is, like, watching that movie, it's crazy, and it's sort of segmented and whatever. When you were shooting it, did you think, like, they're having a blast, but there's no way this movie is going to be any good? I mean, it's just all over the place.
I don't know. I didn't feel that. I was having so much fun.
That's great.
On it, and I thought everything that we were doing on that film was brilliant. From the characters, we used to call him Inigo Montoya.
Yep.
You killed my father, prepare to die. We used to call him Mandy Patinkin. We used to call him, and he was hysterical because he was a complete nutcase. He was like real method in his acting, of course. And as Brits, we don't come from method acting, or we don't see method acting. So that's very much an American thing. He would, before every scene coming in on camera. I remember we was in the castle and he was bursting into one of the rooms where the princess was, and he had to come in an energy. So we're like, we've got the camera behind the bed, she's in the foreground, we're shooting across the bed for the door for him to burst in and do his bit. So we're like, okay, roll camera, blah, blah, blah. It's late, bonk, here we go. Right, all right, ready, and action. So you can hear him outside, probably doing his push-ups, and burst through the door, and he'd run and go, how'd you do it? No, that didn't work. And he'd run out, slam the door, and he'd go, and you'd hear him out but I go, action, and he'd run through. So what you did? No, that's not right. And he'd slam through the door. Well, this went on a few times. In the end, I think we couldn't even shoot it anymore. I mean, and he didn't get it because he's being serious. He's not doing this to mess about. But we can't handle it. It's just so crazy.
Yeah. Oh God.
So things like that would go. But he was quite brilliant.
Well, and is it true that he and I think Christopher Guest actually did that entire? No. He and who did the sword fight?
Cary Elwes.
Cary Elwes and Inigo Montoya.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And many people think. Is it true that they learned the entire thing?
Totally.
And did because there's apparently they did one take of it where they do that entire thing and that's unbelievable.
They totally rehearsed that.
That's insane.
There's a whole doco on that.
They
did, and they were quite brilliant.
That's incredible.
Quite brilliant on it. They rehearsed that whole thing. Mandy is dedicated. I think Carrie says, Mandy knew this was coming up. And before the even movie started, he was having fencing lessons. Carrie was down the pub having a cheese and onion sandwich and a pint, not even thinking about it. And Mandy's already, finessing the sword fighting. I think Carrie says, when they first started, he was like, oh, shit.
I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble here. I've really got to knuckle under and get this down.
That's fantastic.
So, that was, Carrie was terrific. very social. Mandy wasn't quite so social. He was, very zoned into his spot. But I remember it was the first time we were doing the elephant pill scene.
Oh yeah. Oh my! I've with Billy Crystal and can't think of her name, but
Yeah.
How do you shoot something like that without screaming and laughter?
Well, here's what happened. So we haven't got any cameras in, so we have the set. We walk in the set. It's brilliant. So
because it's like inside of a tree or something like that.
Yeah,
it's some weird
something like that.
kind of
Something
thing,
like that. Yeah. I mean, it's got a big table where they, in the middle, and they got all shelves around it with all the, whatever the spices and whatever that they have. And so now, bear in mind, we don't even know who Billy Crystal is, or.
Okay. He wasn't really that big of a name.
I had no idea.
Oh, that's even better.
No idea who Billy Crystal was.
That's amazing.
Or the woman, the actress. I can't think of her name right now.
Carol.
Carol something. She was amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we're going to rehearse the scene, boys. So we go into the set, and of course we're all crammed up against the wall, out the way to give them room on the set. Well, they both walk in fully makeup, right? So we don't even know.
It's the first time you've seen them.
First time I've seen them. So we don't even know what they look like anyway. We're seeing these two, really funky, creepy little characters come in, and they come in and they're off. They're at it, the two of them. They're already bickering each other.
And is it ad-lib stuff? I mean, are they just going?
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think it's script stuff, and they're warming themselves up.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't think we shot till the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just couldn't stop laughing. They were just brilliant. And we're like, we don't even know who these are. But
Carol Kane.
Carol
That's
Kane,
who it is. Yeah.
They were just brilliant.
That's unbelievable.
And we couldn't. I think the producer actually sent Reiner off the set for a period because we couldn't rehearse because he kept bursting out laughing all the time. And it was like, so we never got anywhere. We never really got anything, and
that's amazing.
Billy Crystal and Carol, they didn't give a monkeys.
They were just doing their thing.
They were just having fun doing it. So literally, I don't think we shot anything till the afternoon. It took so long to calm everybody down on that situation, which was just, amazing. Oh, and of course, and then we had, Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah.
And my claim to fame is I was thrown across the bar by Andre the Giant at Shepperton Studios. I don't know what I did, but I must have said something. He would go at the end of the day.
The bar meaning you were there drinking after work.
Oh well, yeah, probably doing the time cards.
Oh yeah,
that's generally where we,
still on the clock.
Add an extra half hour doing the time cards. So, I'll have another pint, Joe, while I'm doing the cards. Yeah. So those were the days. And it's and he would. He would drink a case of wine every night.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So this, and I think he was well loaded this night or something. And I can't remember what I said or
clearly
if I
you said
anything.
or did something that upset
something.
him.
Anyway, the next thing I know, he's picked me up and thrown me across the bar.
Like you were nothing,
and
probably.
Like I was nothing. Yeah, it was like a piece of paper. And of course, he had a lot of trouble with his physical body, with his back.
Yeah, he had.
But I think when you're full of alcohol, you don't feel those pains. You still feel like you're a wrestler. So that was anyway. I got the benefit of that. Anyway, somewhere down the line, my buddy, the Grip, and all the rest of them are all in the bar. So I don't think anything more about it. It's no big deal. Anyway, I think he falls off the chair or something, or he falls on the floor, and there was about 5 of us. We think, we better go and pick him up. Well, 5 of us went over and tried to grab his arm and moved him out. I don't even think we got his shoulders off the floor.
He's too big.
We said, no, fuck it, leave him. And we left.
What are you going to do?
Anyway,
actually, was he just massive to stand? I mean, because I've seen pictures of him. Like,
it was huge.
It's unbelievable. But I did read somewhere that he had
I'm not sure if I gave you a picture.
Problems.
Because we shot on location up at Sheffield.
Yeah.
And I have a picture of where I'm standing with the clapperboard.
Oh, I think so. And he's in there, yeah.
I'm right next to him, and I think my head comes just below his
That's
boobs.
Right, yeah. Now that you mention it, I'll put that on I'll put that up there, too. That's fantastic. Oh, what a treasure to be able to work on a movie like that. I mean, that's like a bucket list movie right there.
It was once in a lifetime not only was it so much fun, and I felt everything that we did, everything that we shot, I just thought was glorious.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it was even looking through the camera and doing it, it was like the shots were so great and the actors were just amazing. Just amazing.
And did everybody fall in love with Robin Wright?
I know I did.
I'll tell you, she directed on Ozark, and the first time she came in, and she's still, I mean, her hair is different and whatever, but she's still Princess Buttercup.
Well, then, of course, you know, this was a big break for her, and so she was very nervous. So she was very quiet.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's also a set of very big personalities.
Huge personalities.
I mean,
all round.
Yeah.
Not only just acting, but also the crew. You know, we were a big, loud personality.
Yeah, and also if you're like that, I mean, a little that I've worked with Rob Reiner, he would just
Reiner,
churn that up.
Who's just a big, you know, who's a huge presence.
That sounds fantastic.
So
that's awesome.
But yeah, everything was just.
Oh, that's great. So how long were you a clapper loader before you started pulling focus, or seconding and then pulling focus? Like when did you start pulling focus?
I don't know. It was some years, probably 7, something like that, 5, 7 years, something like that. And then I got a break to focus pull when I decided I was going to go focus pulling. It was actually a TV drama down in the south of England. No, it wasn't actually. I was still clapper loading then. No, I got a break. My break focus pulling came from Ken Withers. And this is when I first... Ken Withers was an old school operator. And I got a break. There was a picture called A Shadow on the Sun, which was the Beryl Markham story. And they were shooting it in...
It was a movie.
It was like a movie of the week type thing.
Okay, so like a TV movie. Yeah.
Yes. We're shooting it in Africa, based out of Nairobi. And Ken Withers was the A operator. Ian Smith was the A focus puller. I can't remember who was loading now. But then Ken called me because he knew... I'd worked with Ken on and off on various things, loading, and Ken knew that I was making the jump from loading to focus, and he called me and said, come and do B camera focus pulling. You can work with the American cameraman. And I said, great, okay. So that was my real first picture going as a focus puller, and the cameraman was a old Hollywood cameraman by the name of Steve Iaconelli.
Oh, Steve Iaconelli.
Lauren Iaconelli's
dad. Yeah. Who was an operator on Blues Brothers.
Yeah, Steve
and
was
among other things.
Among many other things.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, in fact, that was probably where I got to see Lauren and Brian, her brother.
They were there? They probably came to Africa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we do this picture, and it's great. We're out in the wild and stuff like that. We're working at Stephanie Power's ranch outside Nairobi.
That's so
and
great.
Tony Richardson was the director, the old boy, Tony Richardson, who's about 9 foot tall, old codger. A real character. And of course, I can't remember what he used to call me now, but he called me something because I used to banter with him. And he would look down at me and, and I'd give him a load of verbal. As I was in those days, and he had a nickname for me. Bring on, where's so and so? He would say today, whatever. Anyway, so one story from that picture, brilliant. So we're at Stephanie Power's ranch, and it has a.
Is she in the movie, or they're just renting her ranch?
She's playing Beryl Markham.
Okay. Oh, I got you. Okay.
Hence why we're at her ranch.
Yeah.
So there's a long dirt road that comes from the hills into her ranch. So being a period thing, so we have horse and cart, or like a little chariot type thing. So long lens, the horse and the cart rolls up, they get off at the gates, and they're going to get out and go in. So we're setting up long lens, wide lens. In the background, there are huge hills. Not mountains, really big hills, and big skyline, right? Africa, she says Africa. So we're all ready. Cameras are ready. So the first AD goes, right, call Tony in. We're ready for him. So I remember standing there watching, and here comes the Mercedes car, whatever it is that they drive him in. So, boom, it pulls up. He gets out, struggles to get out, and he's literally probably about 6'6", 6'7", tall guy. He kind of rolls his face and arches his back, and he looks round, and we go, right, you're in the first AD. So, Governor, the Alston, is going to come up here. Boom, 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 at the gate. They're going to get off. We've got cameras here. But he looks up and he goes, in the distance, he looks at the hills and he goes, camels. I want camels. And the first day he says, sorry, Governor, what's that? He goes, camels. I want camels on the hill line, the horizon line, in the background. Call me when you're ready. Gets back in the car and fucks off. So here we are, we're sitting here, and lo and behold, a couple of hours later, you see two lorry loads, 2 trucks going by, and above the top, you see camel heads.
Oh, my gosh.
So there they go, they're taking them up on the hills. They get the camels set on the hills, they call the governor back out again. We do the shot, and there's the camels in the background. Lovely. And he gets there and he goes, lovely, that's very nice. Right, we're moving on now. Thank you to the next thing.
Boy, things have changed a little bit, haven't they? Well, that's fantastic. And nobody even questioned it.
Nobody questioned it.
That's what he wants. That's what we're getting.
You couldn't question
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's it.
Those were the days.
Oh boy, were they?
So it was your first time pulling focus, and I mean, well, but you'd pulled focus before you. So
Yeah,
you
I mean, even on
cameras.
Aliens, I had, started pulling focus on extra cameras and stuff like that.
And so did you just continue on pulling focus? Was that the start of it, and you were a focus puller from then on? And
from that picture, I'd made the break.
Yeah.
Now I was known as a focus puller.
Yeah.
And and going back to the story of working with Steve Iaconelli, who I just loved. I've
heard wonderful things. I never met him, but I've heard wonderful things about him.
Fantastic with him, and he said, you ever come to the States, you call me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, when the fuck am I going to go to the States? Anyway, so, all right, lovely. Thanks very much. We had a great time. We were great friends. Bum, 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 bum. Never thought any more of it. Went back to the UK and, continued working films, whatever.
And of course, this is all pre-internet. So once you leave something, it's not like you're keeping in touch all the time.
No,
you're
I'm not in touch with
writing
them at all.
letters to each other.
Not in touch with them at all.
Yeah.
Not in touch with them at all. So, anyway, I'm doing this other stuff. And then eventually, how the beginning from leaving the UK, coming to the States, is Ken Withers, who got me my break as a focus puller. Now I'm Ken's focus puller. Now I'm the A focus puller with Ken. So we go do jobs together. Now this is where Brian West comes in. So Brian West and Ken have known each other for donkey's years. They were great mates. So now I'll come in and I'm Ken's focus puller and Brian's focus puller. Okay. So now we're a little team. So now Brian gets offered this ABC show.
He's a cinematographer.
He's a cinematographer. Okay. Yeah, Brian West, cinematographer. Ken Withers was the operator.
Yeah.
I was a focus puller, and I can't remember who I had loaded. It's Keith Sewell that was my loader. Oh, that's the story. Oh, let me pop back. Another great story. It's back in Africa.
Yeah.
So, Keith Sewell was my clapper loader. Now, he looks like a defensive backer from the NFL. He's probably about 6'4". He's probably about 240 pounds. He's a really big geezer. Anyway, so we're going out to this location in Africa, and we're out in the boonies, and there's this lagoon. And of course, at this time of year, one has to be aware that it's the rainy season, right? So all the locals are very careful. So now they said, we can go out there in the morning. We've got to shoot around the lagoon. We've got to put the crane up and all that stuff. We're doing all this jazz. And they said, but you have to have the trucks loaded by whatever it was, 1 o'clock. And I mean loaded, and I mean moving out at 1 o'clock. I don't mean start loading the trucks at 1. I mean have them loaded, because they knew, within half hour, 20 minutes, when that rain was going to come.
Oh,
so
and once that rain comes,
we're
you're
out
probably
on
stuck
dirt
or whatever.
roads
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the middle of the bush
You're
with this
screwed.
lagoon, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, no problem. So, of course, 1 o'clock comes. Right, load of trucks, boys. So, total disaster. So now, we as the camera team, we had a driver and we had the old Volkswagen bus,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So we had a driver. That was the camera team's vehicle. So anyway, we load up all this stuff. We're like, well, we know the rain's coming, so we want to get our stuff packed away as quick as possible. Once that gear's on the truck, that ain't our responsibility anymore. We need to get out of here. So, of course, we load the trucks, bump, bump, bump. Here it comes, the rain. So now we're going up on this mud road, and we're out, and the rain's coming down now. I'm like, oh, we're fucked. The trucks, the guy who's driving it, the local guy, then all of a sudden Keith, my loader, Keith Saul, goes, oi, get out of that. Get back here. Let me get behind that wheel. Well, little did I know, Keith Saul was a rallycross driver.
Oh, jeez.
So he got in that thing, and he said, right, hold on, boys. He hit the throttle, and he flew that thing all around, but he got us out of that dirt road on the main road, and we got back to the Hilton Hotel in one piece, and we were all showered in the bar, having, our gin and tonics and all that kind of stuff. And of course, hours later, the final crew come
Everybody
back.
else shows up.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
great.
hours late. So anyway, that was just wanted to pop.
Oh,
back to
that's
the story.
fantastic.
It was just another great little story. So we're back to Fine Romance, and Margaret Whitten is the lead actress. Christopher Casanova is the male lead. So it's about this, fiery romance that they have, and unfortunately, this romance took you all around Europe. We was in London, we was in Dublin,
Nice.
we went to Barcelona, we went to Budapest. We were going like 6 different places. Paris. We were in all these major cities for like a month, and then moved on. So it was an amazing job. Don't have really too many funny stories about that, except the fact is that I fell in love with my first wife, Joanne, who was the makeup artist for Margaret Whitten.
Ah.
And we fell in love, and that was my introduction to the States. She actually was
She's from the U.S.
she's a Canadian, but Native American from the Cree tribe, I think it was. So she was Native American from Canada, the West Coast. She lived in Beverly Hills. So we do this picture. I come back with her to Beverly Hills, and I think, well, this ain't bad. I think I could live here. Hollywood, Beverly Hills, sun shining all day. Yeah, I think I can do this.
There you go.
So anyway, that was the beginning. So we get married, and I do the immigration thing, and that's a whole nother story, but I'm not going to mention that on this podcast. I'll try and stay with the business.
Absolutely.
So that happens. So then I'm here, and there's a period of time that I can't work because I'm waiting for the green card.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. I can't leave the country. I can't work. Anyway, I finally get that. I get the card, so now I've got the green light. Then I remember, call Steve Yaconelli.
Who's in? Where is?
Steve
He's in
Yaconelli's
L.A.
in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, he's in L.A. Okay, yeah,
He's in LA.
yeah.
So I call him, and we get together, and lo and behold, he's busy. There's this little old picture called Blue Sky. Once again, the old boy, Tony Richardson, is directing it.
Oh, there you go.
Which is fantastic. So, of course,
yeah.
I wouldn't have seen him since Africa.
Uh-huh.
And Steve Bridge was the operator. I was the focus puller. And
Jessica Lange, Tommy Lee Jones,
Jessica Lange,
Powers
Tommy
Booth.
Lee Jones.
Yeah, it just goes on and on.
And also Chris O'Donnell.
I was going to say a very young, probably
A very
Chris O'Donnell.
young Chris O'Donnell that was playing Jessica Lange's son.
Who you then ran into later on in your
Who
career. That's
then
funny.
I ended up working on NCIS
Everything
LA,
comes around,
and
right?
he's the lead.
Yeah, that's
so,
fantastic.
Funny enough, I'd forgotten all about that.
Well, because in 1994, Chris O'Donnell was probably, what, like 12 or 15
No, he was a
or
little
something?
older than
Oh,
that.
but-
He was a little older than that.
Yeah.
But funny enough, when I came over to NCIS LA, he was the one that came over to me. He said, we worked together, haven't we? And I was like, have we?
That's great.
And then we worked out, oh, Christ, yeah, it was on Blue Sky.
I love
yeah, of
that.
course.
That's fantastic.
Blue Sky. So I did Blue Sky, and at that time it was non-union, but it went union. And so that actually gave me my days.
Got you into the
So
union.
Steve Yaconelli and Steve Bridge took me over to 600.
Yeah.
And
Local 600, the Cinematographers Guild.
Cinematographers Guild, talked to the president, said about these hours, and he said, yeah, it's legit.
Yeah.
So, boom, I got my hours. Next thing I know, I'm in 600.
You're lucky. Yeah.
And,
Amazing.
very lucky.
Yeah.
But Steve, kept me working
Uh-huh.
for a while. We did, lots of bits and pieces and a few other shows with him. And then, there was another period of my life that things were good in the business, and then I actually left the business with my wife to go and pursue another business for her. We both left the business for a few years.
Didn't you go and live on a Native American reservation?
Yeah. That she wanted to pursue a background and help the Native Americans, so we both came out the business. We got some money backing by somebody else in the business, and we went to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in Montana.
How long did you live there?
2 years.
Wow.
And small tribe, very poor tribe. Anyway, we went there to create some business, which we did. We bought land. We ended up building a little manufacturing facility. We brought people from New York, people from LA to teach the Native Americans about clothing, putting clothing together. Mm-hmm. So we kind of all learned together. So it was an amazing experience for 2 years. Fantastic. Lots of great things happened about that. And then, anyway, the end of the story was that it didn't end so well. It kind of fell apart at the end, and it was disastrous in many other ways. Anyway, I came back to the business after being out for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And called up everybody that I had known and worked before, and I ended up working for this production company again that were doing, this is when they were doing Movie of the Weeks, and I worked with a few different cameramen, and anyway, I ended up working with Tom Del Ruth, and I ended up doing a couple of pictures with Tom Del Ruth, and then he said to me, hey, listen, I did this pilot on this show called ER. My first assistant, Lex Rawlings, was off doing a picture.
Oh, yeah.
He said, would you come with me and do like the first, I'll offer you the first half a dozen episodes or whatever until Lex comes back.
Yeah.
I said, absolutely, because at this time I was broke.
Yeah.
And was trying to make my way back in the business. So I said, yeah, I'll take anything. So
And little did you know.
Little did I know, 15 years later.
So I didn't realize that you didn't do the pilot, but you did day one of the show
Episode
proper.
1, day 1. Did not do the pilot.
You were there episode 1, day 1, and you were there 15 years later on the last episode.
15 years later on the last episode.
And you started out as the first AC,
Yep.
and then after I left, you jumped up to operating, and then
Yep.
while you were there, you started directing.
Yep, directed 2 episodes. Very proud to have directed season 15, where they brought all the classic directors back, and I felt very proud to be part of that collection of very talented directors. So yeah, I did
And
a
you
couple
met
of
your
episodes.
present wife on ER as well.
I did, yes.
So
in
all
the
in
early
all,
years.
a good choice. To
ER rebuilt my life.
It's amazing.
I met my wife Kate that I'm with today.
Yep.
We have older kids. We went through that whole thing. Was able to buy houses and stuff like that, and that show recreated my whole life.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And it was an amazing experience and something that I was extremely proud to be a part of. One thing we didn't talk about, and I'm not sure where this came in, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, yeah.
Because you were the key first on that?
No, I was clapperloading.
Oh, you were still clapper? I didn't realize when that was.
I was still
Okay.
clapping on that. And
because that was so groundbreaking. And what they did, was it just like the camera, you had to constantly be, did you have to keep all sorts of information about the camera and the angle and all?
It was an amazing format. First of all, with Bob Zemeckis, who's a great guy. Really liked him, really nice, personable guy. Dean Cundy, I think, was the
I think you're
DP,
right, yeah.
And Ray Ray.
The operator?
Yeah, Ray.
Was it Ray Stella?
Ray Stella.
Yeah.
Ray Stella was his.
Yeah, he was Dean's operator.
Ray Stella was his operator.
Yeah, great operator.
And then they inherited Clyde Bryant was there too.
Clyde Bryant.
Clyde
Yeah.
went with him. Clyde
Yep.
was the first. That was the first time I met
Yeah.
Clyde.
He's a legendary.
And
first
I
AC.
came in with another camera with Martin Kenzie was my focus puller.
Yeah.
Dave Worley. Dave Worley was the operator. Martin Kenzie was the first, and I was clapping. And my best mate Johnny Fleming was the grip on that. So we came in and did the B camera.
Yeah.
So we got to work with Dean, Ray.
But what
and
was it
Clyde.
like shooting that stuff? Because now
wa-
it's so you take it all for granted, right? But that was so groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking. So, first of all, Bob Hoskins was amazing.
The main thing that I remember so much of it, but Bob Hoskins had the thing where he's choking the rabbit.
Yeah.
And I remember going, I don't even understand how you could possibly, like back then. I mean,
Yeah.
now, whatever. But
Well, first of all, he was an amazing character and an amazing athlete. The guy,
it doesn't look like
he's
he
like
would be.
was like a little barrel guy, you think.
He's sort of
but
round.
The guy would do handstands and twists and spins all over the set, and I'm like, who the fucking hell is this guy? Jesus. Anyway, not only was he a lovely guy, and of course, every lunchtime he's down the pub, loves his pints.
This was in England?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. We was on. Where I came in, we had a huge warehouse in Acton or Ealing or somewhere like that.
Okay.
It was a huge, big warehouse. Anyway, from the technical point of view, how brilliant it was that. So Zemeckis would stage the scenes, and we would have these figures of Roger Rabbit and the other characters. So he would place the position of where Roger Rabbit would be in the scene and the other characters.
For framing reasons. Yeah, and focus.
For framing
and
reasons.
whatever. Yeah.
So, and then the actors will become familiar where the positions were, where everybody is, and rehearse it a number of times with camera moves and everything. And then when it came to shooting, you take the figures out, and he would go to those positions and act
It's
in
just
those
muscle
positions.
memory.
Yes, exactly.
So, that's actually much simpler than I actually would have thought for how well it works. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was basically how.
And then it was animated, obviously, after the fact.
Exactly.
They animated to that.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
incredible.
And what were we shooting it on? We were shooting it on VistaVision or
Sure.
something like that.
Something big.
Something
Yeah.
something like that. So they had the
Wow.
huge they had the huge format to play with that frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Amazing.
I was fascinated by it.
I can only imagine. And then to see something like that when it comes out must have been amazing to have been a part of it. Because it
yeah.
was like, anybody who hasn't seen it should see it. Because even now it actually holds up.
Definitely.
But now someone can, kids can do it on their computer. It's no big
Right.
deal. But back then,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
I mean, the choreographing, and also not only just memory with the actors, but also with the camera movement and positions of the camera and the framing, was
incredible.
Quite something.
Yeah.
So much of that was instinctive memory and what have you. Yeah, it was quite. And of course, most of the time, all this stuff was generally done on the camera crane.
yeah.
Most of all this stuff on the A camera was all crane movement.
Okay.
We filled in as B camera in different areas and, got those different shots. But yeah, it was very, technically very interesting.
Amazing.
And great people.
So I got to ask you about ER. You started ER with an original camera operator who lasted an episode or two, and then Guy B comes in. And you guys started doing Steadicam like nobody had ever seen it on a regular basis. People were doing big shots in movies and whatever, but not on TV, and not on that level, not coming in at 7 a.m. and by 7:30 doing a 3.5-minute oneer that includes, extras and this and that and the other. Did that blow your mind? Was that was that incredible?
Yeah. In a way, it was. It was more. For me, it was a little more straightforward because, focus pulling in those days, we had the old Cook lenses, we had a good stop, and
It's true. Yeah.
it
on
for
film.
me, it really wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my time, as you remember when you came in, is like protecting Guy.
Yeah.
Like going through doors,
Pushing
making
people
sure
out of the way.
people were out the way. I mean, I was like guys buffer, as well, and I had the old sights. Square box focus.
Is that what you started with? Okay,
We had the big
yeah.
square box with the big knob on the side. It was like an old telephone.
Well, and the thing
off.
that I remember about that was you'd finish the shot and then you'd look at the lens and you go, well, at least I know it was the same at the end.
Yeah,
and hopefully the rest.
Because you'd
was...
never know, with the amount of traveling we did through that set. But I spent most of my time. It was half pulling focus and the other half protecting the guy going through doors and extras and what have you, and stuff like that. So it certainly made the day very interesting, and it had a great energy. And of course, as each day went by, we all progressed from directors to Guy in the system of what was going on and what how we could push it and everything else going through. And of course, the actors. First of all, coming in are giving all this dribble that they don't know what it means, and then they're having to do these procedures with their hands that they don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
So it was really groundbreaking in that area, and kudos to the actors. Like Noah Wiley and Tony Edwards and all that mob. I mean, and the girls, they were absolutely fantastic. They really dedicated themselves to it. I remember, you'd walk in a room. I'd walk in a room, and there's Noah Wiley with a pig's head or something.
Yeah.
And he's stitching,
suturing.
He's learning how to suture and stuff like that. And you go, hey, what's up, mate? You go, yeah, all right, how you doing?
Yeah,
and he's in there. I mean, just things
they
like
all
that
committed
were
to
going
it.
on
It was incredible. And
all
also,
the
by
time.
the way, one of the nicest casts I've ever worked with.
Without a doubt.
Just some of the greatest people.
Without a doubt. And of course, it became a great family. Show and midway it was all about the family. The atmosphere was, as you know and recognize, the family atmosphere from that was fantastic.
Well, I remember when I walked in there after, first of all, I was absolutely completely frightened of what it was and whatever, and you helped me greatly with that because you basically, I remember very specifically early on me sort of going, okay, so we're going to, let's get the wheels in here. And you shook your head. And I was like, the fluid head? And you were like, yeah, because I was not ready to do the shot on the wheels yet. But you sort of protected me in that way. And then I also remember specifically saying how amazed I was at how you were pulling focus. And you pointed out that there were these 1 foot squares on the floor. Like there were these tiles. And you were like, so I can always count how far away we are.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it just being such a wonderful place and the people being so welcoming and so great. And Richard Thorpe, just talk about character.
Yeah.
It was the DP was one of the most hysterical people.
Yeah, well, he came in. We had Tom Del Ruth.
Yep.
Did a few episodes at the beginning, maybe 5 or 6, and he said to me he was going to be out this. Tom needed to move on to other ventures. I think he wanted to, do some other stuff. He didn't want to be locked down so much. Yeah, it was interesting. We'd be running around, and we'd look back, and in those when we first started that first season, you could still smoke on the set.
No way.
Yes. So, and I always remember looking back.
So Thorpe was probably smoking all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, but before Richard came in, and Tom used to smoke a pipe.
Yes.
So Guy and I would be running around doing these rehearsals and what have you, and I would look back in the distance, and behind this glass would be Tom just sitting there puffing away on his pipe, thinking to himself, "I'm so bored," because he had set the standard with top lighting.
Yeah.
So we very rarely had to bring in any lights at all. In the end, we actually progressed to bring in a few lights to give a little bit of feel for the girls to try and help them out a little bit. But basically, Tom was like, I'm lit.
Yeah.
So he was bored out of his mind, and I think that was one of the reasons why he had to move on.
Yeah, to move on. Yeah.
And of course, then came Richard Thorpe. Who was a complete 180 in personality.
Oh, yeah.
Was a very loud presence and wisecracked. Another English guy who lived here for many, many years, but still had, like his whole thing about let's get the day done, Terence. I got to get home and get my eggs and bacon and sausages on for dinner tonight. I'm doing, or whatever he was thinking about, getting for his dinner and cooking.
It was absolutely hysterical.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
So you did 15 years of that show. And you started as an assistant, you became the camera operator. You were still the camera operator, but you directed 2 episodes?
Yes.
So, but there was what? Once you took over camera operating, you were probably a camera operator before you jumped to directing for what, 10 years? Give or take?
Yeah.
How do you keep that interesting? How do you keep your head in the game?
It wasn't difficult on that job.
Yeah.
I mean, that job was so challenging, physically and mentally, as you well know.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn the dialogue as well.
Sure.
As well as what you're doing with the camera movements, pulling back through doors, going through doorways, knowing that you've got extras that are coming within 6 inches of you, and pulling trays out and moving and such. There's so many moving objects involved in that. Didn't have time to think about anything else, about not getting bored. It was the most challenging job I think we probably have ever done.
No question.
Right? Without a doubt, on a everyday, all day.
Of what's demanded on you every single shot and every day.
Absolutely.
And actually, I've never worked, well, I don't know if I've never worked, but I don't know that I've worked on a show that demands more of an operator in areas that aren't specifically operating, because you so were involved with the actors and
well,
the story
because
and
you're moving with the camera, so you're pretty much coordinating everything. You're coordinating the actors.
Yep.
With the actors, you're coordinating the background for
Huge
all
part
these
of it.
moves.
Yeah.
And as well as your own movements of where you're working your lens sizes, your composition, doors you're going through, people you're missing, making that move with the actors knowing that at a certain time within there you're going to whip from one over there to catch that piece of dialogue, so they can't be over there picking their ear, thinking, oh, I'm off camera, I'm just giving off camera lines here, because no, that didn't work on ER, because at any time we would whip that camera onto you, just to break it up. So there was... So, and that was interesting for the actors as well, because obviously, they're used to camera setups like, okay, we're on this particular actor or these particular actors, we're going to follow through the scene with these guys, so they can know that they can be off camera over there, and they, providing they're giving, some element of the scene with the lines as off camera, all right. Yeah. But ER, everybody's on, because we were given the freedom of instinct, and as we did on that show, somebody would even be in the middle of a line, we'd whip off to somebody over here that was doing a procedure, and then come back to them or go to somebody else. Yeah. So, as I say, they had to be on all the time. Yeah. So there was no let off for them either.
I remember very specifically that sometimes when I was doing shots, if the foreground got a little boring as far as background, you would sometimes circle me and do a wipe in front of the lens while you were pulling focus.
Oh, totally.
Just so it was cutting where you.
If it got quiet, yeah. If there was like a blank space and we needed that energy.
Crack me up.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I'd just come around and give you a couple of wipes.
And then there was Brick Tilly. You remember Brick?
Oh yeah, Brick Tilly. Yeah.
Who was one of our, I don't know what you call them, executive background. They were there all the time.
Yeah.
And he would do that triple cross where he would have a sweater on and he would cross the camera and then drop it down and cross back through with something else and then grab a tray and cross the camera.
He'd have like 3 different looks on the same shot.
It was amazing.
Cross camera 3 times with 3 different looks.
That was so great. So talk to me about when you jumped to directing, I mean, was it a huge learning curve, or were you so involved with? I mean, you've been on the show for what 13 years by the time you directed, or 14 years?
Yeah, 12, 13, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, was it just second nature, or was it a huge learning curve?
No, it's huge.
Yeah,
I thought it was huge. I had the advantage of more than most people in understanding exactly what I wanted and required with the camera, and knew what the capabilities of what I expected that camera to do. So that's a definite advantage. That's on my side. But then there's the other whole side that you think you know because you're around it every day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're sitting in the seat and now you're working with the actors.
Yeah.
And you're working with budgets, you're working with production, you're working with props, you're working with wardrobe. Should she have the black bag, or should she have the red bag, or should she have the green bag? Should she have those kind of shoes? Like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't care.
You give them what you want. That's your job. I don't care what bag or shoes they're wearing or whatever. But
they still come to you.
But
Yeah,
these
yeah.
were requirements, and all of a sudden, it's like everybody is coming to you and asking you questions, and unfortunately a lot of them are really straightforward questions, and you want to say, why are you even wasting my time? But they have to ask these questions, and I get it. So no, it was a huge...
So did it give you a newfound respect for directors when you started directing? I mean, for what they have to deal with? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Oh, and still to this day,
Yeah.
I carry that because I know what's involved. But yeah, it was a huge step, a huge learning curve. But once again, I did have the advantage. I had the love of the family of actors.
Yeah.
And I remember at times, with some of them, and I would say something, and then one of the actors would look at me and go, "What?" I'm like, yeah, this is what I was thinking. And he would go, okay, I'll work it out for you. But I know if it was some other director, we would say, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing that, But because it was me, I knew that they'd like, okay, I'll work. I kind of get what you're saying.
I know exactly
I'll
what
work
you
something
mean.
out for you along those lines.
I know that when I directed there were times that I absolutely didn't make sense, but people were just like, oh, yeah. And they'd go and they'd do what they needed to do.
And I remember I got my first bollocking from an actress. We had a guest star actress that had been around a long time, and she knew I was new at the game, and she kind of just dealt with me.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't have any really respect because I was a new kid on the block, but she dealt with me. So that was how I felt anyway. And I remember we had this scene, and it was a very emotional scene where she's reminiscing with Linda, and so we got this night. I got this camera. It's moved. They're on the couch talking, and she's crying, and there's emotion, and blah blah blah. Anyway, we got the camera moving in, and I thought, well, I got that. I thought myself, that's nice. I've got that. So of course now I'm getting a bit cocky. So I think, oh, maybe I'll ask her if she just wouldn't do something like that and do it something like this. Well, boy, did I learn about that.
You got handed.
She's got up. She said, right, let's hold the set, everybody. She said, can I talk to you off set? And I thought, oh, Christ, I'm fired. So she went round and she said, you can't say blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, I'm not, being awkward. I'm just trying to talk to you about what I'm feeling. I'm just trying to try something else in this scene. That's all I'm trying to do. I said,
was she upset at the way that you spoke to her about it, or what you were asking about?
I think she felt more about maybe the way I was asking it.
Okay.
Which of course, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we got over it. We come back on, and she tried something for me, and we got through it. And I was very respectful and blah 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 blah, which I was anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to pull a wall over anybody's eyes. She's been around a long time, has an amazing career, is incredibly experienced, and I wasn't. I was just looking to learn from her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she. And I remember it was awkward at the time because I've got the writer, a young writer, and they have in their head when they've written the words down of how the emotions, or not only the emotions, but maybe how the physicality of the patient should be. So it's like, oh, they should cough more, or they should do this more, or they should do... So I'll come out, so I've got the writer in one ear saying, well, she should be doing this, and she should... And I think, well, I ain't going to go in there and tell her about that. She's going to tell me to fuck off.
Exactly.
And she's going to look at me.
Do you think you could cough in between these two
I feel
words?
like I've got, the writer's at me, so it's like I have to show like I'm going in to try and say something.
Yep.
So, of course, I went in to try and say something a couple of times, and she just looked at me and kind of just twinked her eyes and ushered me away.
In other words,
Well,
like, yes,
you're like-
check the box
you're like,
that you've
"Fuck
said
off."
what you've said, and
You're
now
like,
get
fuck
out
off,
of my
I'm
face.
going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah, yeah. I
know.
found that to be the most daunting part.
Yes.
Was and not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was the part that dealing with actors and talking about tweaking scenes and whatever. I just didn't. I felt like I was swimming, but I didn't know how to swim.
Yeah.
It was very bizarre.
Or you're being asked for stuff that you're not even aware of, or
Yeah.
you now, and you may be right or wrong. It's like I'm looking at it from my point of view, or maybe as an audience is looking at it and saying, and you get these little nuanced notes, and you think, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, if my mum's watching this at home, do you think she cares about those nuances? No. So you got all this inner dialogue going in your head. But yes, this was part of the new experience of directing. Is that you know these days, the writers are they're almost everything today. They're incredibly important and need to have their opinions about the stories and the scripts that they've written.
Well, and also TV-wise, they're now
Especially-
executive producers.
Especially
so-
TV. Yeah, I mean, they run it now.
Yeah.
So as a director, you're obligated to abide and please with your writer of the show.
Sure.
You want them happy because, Lord forbid, they might even offer you a job one day. You never know if they like what you do. But yeah, so that stuff was very interesting in the change. But I also there was a great thing. John Stamos had come onto the show, and I got on really well with John. He was that sort of guy. He was a guy's guy, John.
On ER, you're
On
talking
ER,
about, yeah.
he came onto ER.
He's a great guy.
Great guy, and I thought he did really well. But John, for me, Stamos works within a bubble, and what I mean by that is that he is who he is, and he does what he does, and that's what he does,
And
which
it
is
works.
great. And
it
hey,
works.
he's been very successful at it. But this episode I was directing with him, there was a lot of conflict on the show going on between him and his dad and his daughter, and his dad had been drinking, so there was all this emotional stuff going on. And his dad had been fucking up like he always does. So we had this scene where John was so pissed that he went to the apartment to confront his dad, and it was a really emotional part. And I was really into it because I was feeling it. Because, all the stuff that we write about, a lot of stuff, our experiences, we call upon our own experiences to guide us through these situations. So this scene really anchored with me, and I was full of emotion and had expectations of how I would be with this. So anyway, so it's handheld, so it's kind of got busy emotion to it. And we're gonna, there's a little fight scene. John is supposed to come and get hold of the old man, and I think he actually hits him and knocks him down. And John's supposed to be really pushed him. And so we rehearse it. John comes in, blah, blah, blah. So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, I really want to push Stamos now. I want to maybe push him to do something and go to a place maybe where he's not used to going to.
Mm-hmm.
So we go and do the first few takes, and he comes in and he's fired up, and I'm like, come flying out the chair, and I come on the set. We say, cut, come on the set. I'm up now, emotions. So I get hold of Stamos by the collar, and I get into his face, and I say, John, look, you got to get in. You got to go deeper. This has got to mean more to you. See how I am with you right now? This is how I feel you got to be. And it was like, okay. So anyway, we did a couple of more takes, and I thought, I'm fired.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got him up. I didn't get him where I really wanted to, but I did get a bit of movement, and I did feel I got closer to it. The scene in the end was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out really amazing. It was at night. It was, raining. We had, it was emotion, violence. It was a fantastic scene, but it was really funny how.
And you didn't get fired.
Unfortunately, we were mates, so he didn't.
I was going to say that's more.
He
important.
allowed me to be that way with him, but he knew where I was coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since you brought up Stamos, I was going to ask you this question because throughout, from the moment that we got on ER, but since then, watching you on other shows and this and that and the other, you tend to be very friendly with the actors that you work with. More so than most people that I know. But it's genuine. It's like there's some people I know who will they'll shine on an actor because they want to ride their coattails or whatever. But you actually have genuinely formed relationships with a lot of these people. Like I remember very early on, I don't know if you remember this, I remember Juliana inviting us. Juliana and she was dating...
Ron?
Ron
Eldard.
Ron Eldard. And Juliana and Ron invited us to go... to hot yoga, Bikram yoga, and it might have even been with Bikram down in Santa Monica, like when that whole thing was big. And I remember us going, we'll go. We're tough guys. We'll go do it. And it just completely kicking our ass. And actually, the one thing that I remember was she said, like, wear shorts, don't wear sweatpants or something like that. And I'm like, what does she know? I'm going to wear sweatpants. And by the end of it, they're like soaked in. They weigh like 30 pounds. Anyway, but I remember, like, you have genuine relationships with these people, and I'm wondering if A, if you recognize that, and B, if you think there's a reason for how that happens.
Yeah, I think for the fact that, I grew up in this business and was on a lot of big movie sets with my dad, and went on location with him, and I watched how he was. He was generally always loved by the actors and always got on great with the actors, and I always see him messing about with him. And at the time I didn't think anything of it, but obviously it registered with me. And, the bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, listen, they're just somebody else doing their job.
Yeah.
I'm here doing my job.
You just treat them like normal people.
Yeah. They're just there doing their job, and they got their pressures. Yep. I'm here doing my job. I got mine. And they're just another working colleague.
Yeah.
As I don't have the whole glitz thing about it, and never did. So yeah, I'm very matter of fact when I work, and sometimes it doesn't always pay off.
Sure.
Some of them are not that way.
No, people are people, but I've noticed that, and I think I think I took a cue from you on that, of just realizing, like, no, these are just people. I mean, and in weird ways, their lives are actually a little tougher in many ways, because, like, I remember, Clooney couldn't, like, we'd all go to see The Godfather opening up at Mann's Chinese, but he couldn't go because it was too much paparazzi and all that stuff. So there's all those things.
Yeah.
What do you do? Have you had situations where you've worked with a director and a DP who didn't get along, who didn't see eye to eye, and were giving you, I want X, the other one was saying, I want Y?
No, not in that. No, not in that. I don't think I've come across so much that.
Okay. Part of it is probably because, look, the last 25 years or whatever, you've basically been on 2 major shows, right? So, and those shows have their own dialogue, and they run themselves a little bit. And so, as the operator on those shows, do you feel that there's part of it that you're sort of like you're there to sort of keep some of the essence of the show going between directors?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I am the continuity of that show.
Yeah.
And so over the years, it doesn't matter. It's like we can have an amazing director come in, which I really love, because, as I say, when we get good directors, experienced directors come in, I give a sigh of relief, and I always say, I can do my job. Just operate on this.
I can just do my job.
And just do my job and just operate for this guy.
Yeah.
And all I need to think about is composition and camera and working out the best deal for him on this, because he's got everything else sorted. He's doing what he should be. He's directing the show. And as we know and we've experienced in many years, there's many different grades and experiences that you come across, new directors coming in, directors that shouldn't have been directing, that have been directing for so many years or whatever. So I've always been the continuity, because I've been lucky enough to always kind of work the English system with DPs that I'm working with. Love the fact of me being on the set and working the set. So I generally, have a nice close relationship with all the directors. What a director needs is what, composition-wise, camera-wise, I'll provide.
Sure.
For them. So, there being that experienced directors come in, a lot of fun, great time, can work one part of the job. Then you have newer people coming in, not so experienced. So then it's you put on the other hat, whereas you're making sure that you're getting enough cuts for the scene to make the scene work. I mean, I don't interfere with emotions of the scene with the actors, because whether a director's good or not, that's not my job.
Yeah.
You know, that's for them to work out. That I don't cross that line. But my line does involve making sure we have the aesthetics to put a scene together.
Yeah.
What's in that scene, emotion-wise, is not my job. That's the director's job. But,
Well, let me ask you a question on that note, though, because you've been on these shows where you've been with the actors for so long, and they clearly trust you, and also they know you as a director, so they know even. And I would suspect that even before you started directing on ER, they sort of knew that you had that abilities, right? If a director comes in who's not giving them what they need and they look to you, what do you do? Because I'm sure you've been in that situation. I've been in that situation where they'll look and go, "You got anything?"
Yeah.
I mean. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
I guess it is. It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, if you're on the set, still on the camera, and someone's giving you that look.
Well, because you're 3 feet away, and they're going, "Is this working for you?" Or
I mean, if they really, I've had actors come to me, but
quietly
come off.
Yeah.
Will talk to me away from camera, off the set.
Yeah.
And just say, look, I'm just concerned. Do you, how's it looking?
Is it landing?
Are you getting what I'm trying
and
to?
So you'll
put
give them
over
the
here?
feedback, and
I'll say, well, look, looking through the camera, and knowing the emotion of the scene and what's going on.
Yeah.
Generally yay or nay, and if it's not, then I may say something that I'm seeing. On the QT. Yeah. I mean, and invariably. That happens.
Well, but the thing is, the reason I ask is because, look, you go to do a movie and you meet some new actor and you work with them, they're probably not going to, chances are they're not going to do that. But when you've worked for 5 years with someone, they actually, in a way, trust you more than some. I mean, they do trust you more than someone else.
Without a doubt.
And when something's not working, 9 times out of 10, they can tell by looking at you.
They will definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. They definitely come to me, and if they're not sure about something or they're not feeling something's going the right way or whatever, they definitely will come to me and ask my point of view, which is, that's fantastic.
It's great, but it also it's a weird weird position.
Political
it can be
place
politically
that you have to be very careful. I can't just jump off the camera. And go,
Stop! Cut!
Go, or say cut and then go off the camera and then go get hold of the actor and pull him off set before the director's even got on set and I'm talking to him. No, I mean, you can't do stuff.
It's not quite the same, but I don't know if you remember this, but I directed, and then my last day of directing, I actually got food poisoning. I don't know if you remember that, but I got food poisoning towards the end of the day. Yeah. And I was sick for like a day and a half, and I missed the next day. You might have covered me even. I'm not sure who covered me. But and then I came back, and it was Chris Chulak directing, and we set up the first shot, and I put the Steadicam up, and called roll camera and speed, and I said action. And everybody paused, and Chulak calls over and he goes, "Dave, do you mind if I do that?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I literally was like, "He's gonna fire me," and he thought it was hysterical. But I just whatever. So, and then, are you thinking about the cut as you're shooting to make sure that there are all the pieces that the editor needs?
It depends on who's directing.
Sure.
If I have every confidence and I'm enjoying the director as a director, and I guess if they, dare I say it, have my confidence.
You could say it.
but if they have my confidence, then I don't think about the cuts. It's so nice. I'm just thinking about something different with composition.
Yeah.
And that's such a lovely feeling.
Yeah.
But, with a lot of others that come through, I'm thinking about.
Well, and especially nowadays, as well as I do on TV, it's like you get a lot of new directors, and you sort of, there's that sussing out period where you're trying to figure out, like, okay, what do these people know? Where do they need help?
Like the first 5 minutes of the first day, you mean?
Yeah. But it's true, right? Like you're sort of watching and going, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so are the actors, and so is everybody else.
Yeah.
What about working with the Dolly Group? Like if you're working with a new dolly grip you've never worked with before, how do you?
It's like, oh God, because you work with somebody that's behind you, not only just pushing a dolly, but he's with you handheld, he's with you steady cam, he's with you, rigging something. The guy I've been with, Ashley for years.
Oh yeah,
it's
Ashley.
like so. I mean, I just say, Ash, here's where I want to be, right? And I just walk away.
Yeah.
And he does it all, and I'm so spoiled.
Yeah, that's the problem.
In
right?
that way now, and and then we have moves on the dolly, and fortunately we have the monitors these days, which is really nice for the grips, and they can actually see, like, it's like if I'm struggling, they're on the edge, they're coming more over to the edge of the frame, and I can't frame anymore because I got that, then they know they just make that nice little easy shift on the dolly and just move the frame round again. And you think, oh, thank God, I don't have to think about this all day. You're trying to point your fingers. I want to go this way. I want to down a bit, up a bit. And they go,
Exactly.
Just trying to figure out what you're saying. I'm like, oh God, this is exhausting. So yeah, I've been so spoiled for so many years. But yeah, it's it's certainly going and working with somebody new again, and it's to all of us. From a dolly grip is trying to work me out, I'm trying to work them out. You got new technicians that you're working with. Yeah, it's working with a dolly grip. But hey, listen, 9 times out of 10, you got the boys that have been around a long time. They'll suss me out in 5 minutes.
Yep.
They'll work out exactly who I am. I'm a pointer, I'm a pusher, I'm a shouter, I'm a or whatever I am. They'll work out who I am. And that's a lovely thing about having an opportunity to work with guys that have some experience, and I've been lucky enough, to have had that.
Yeah, sure. I think
years.
I came in. The first time I came into NCIS was when you were directing, and I think I covered you. I went on the camera for you, and I remember like that first moment going, oh, this guy like knows exactly what he's doing, and he just moved right where we needed, and this, and that show sort of it's like clockwork anyway. But
just on that, it was so lovely. It's just everybody was truly professional about what they did, especially in camera. I mean, we all just knew, like the guys knew me. They knew how I work, how I maneuver, every little nuance about what I do. These guys just knew, like the focus puller. He knows every so often I'm going to go, I'm just going to give him that look, and he just knows. He goes, I ain't going to do it on this one. I'll do it on take 2. It's just I want to, and the focus puller's telling me that I'm going to give you option 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is so great. But he knows what he would know what I was thinking. Something would happen, and he'd think he's going to
go for it.
He's gonna, and he would come in and he'd go, here he goes, boom, and he'd go, boom. With the focus, and I'd come back, and he'd come back. Wouldn't even have to say it. He would just know.
I've talked about that before, is like when you get in that situation, especially when you're on a show for a while, it happens, hopefully, where the dolly grip, the focus puller, and you all understand what you all like.
All know.
You just see something, and without thinking of it, the dolly starts moving towards it, the focus goes towards it. I mean, everything happens.
We would
fantastic.
we would laugh all the time because, a lot of these shows, in a lot of directs, we'd have these little push-ins, and sometimes, these little push-outs, and my focus puller and I would laugh because we'd never know when Ashley was going to do that. I wouldn't even
he'd tell you.
I wouldn't even tell him
because he'd feel it.
He'd be watching the scene and he'd think to himself,
"That's great.
We can do a push
That's
here.
The best. Yeah,
we can take this out a little bit."
And then you're like, "Oh,
and
we're
then,
doing
of course,
this."
in the early days, Keith would be holding the focus, and all of a sudden he'd be seeing the dolly moving, and he'd be looking back like, "What are you doing?" Like,
back when he was on the camera. Yeah,
we need a push here. So that became the laughing joke all the time because we would never know on the end of these scenes whether Ashley was going to push in or whether he would start pulling us out. And it didn't affect the scene because he'd been doing it so long, and my dolly grip was like an operator anyway. I mean,
exactly.
He'd been with me and in the business so long.
That's great.
And funny enough, interestingly enough, how people come around. That first picture that I did, Blue Sky, with Steve Iaconelli.
Yeah.
Ashley was a grip on it. It was the trainee dolly grip.
No,
so he
wait,
was
The firfirst picture in Los Angeles.
It wasn't even Los Angeles. We were down in
wherever in the States.
We were in Selma, Alabama.
Okay, gotcha. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But Ashley was training on the dolly grip I had on Blue Sky.
And do you guys remember each other from that, or you just?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we came together, we mentioned Blue Sky, and he said to me, "I was on that." I didn't remember.
That's so great.
He said, "Yeah, I was on it. I was training off the dolly grip on that." And so it's funny how people and things and cycles, and now he's, Ashley's without a doubt one of the top dolly grips.
He's great.
He made my life.
Yeah.
Well, all my boys did. I just feel.
Well, you guys had it so dialed in.
I
there.
just
It's
felt
amazing.
totally spoiled.
Amazing. I know.
I mean,
it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because then when you go on to something where you're not, it's like
I don't even know how to
happening?
balance the Steadicam anymore. I don't even know how to put the Steadicam together, and I don't mind saying that.
That's fantastic.
They balance it. They did everything for me.
That's great.
All I did was just put the vest and put it on, and they had everything ready and all that kind of stuff. I've been totally spoiled, and I'm going to expect the same if I work anymore.
I think
but
you
I don't
will.
know if I'm going to get it.
And when you're directing, do you miss operating? Like are you happy to go back to operating? I know obviously there's more to be learned as a director than an operator at this point, but do you miss not being on the camera?
No, not really.
No?
I mean, there was there was one episode I wanted 2 Steadicams. While I was directing, put the rig on. And we did 2 Steadicams during this scene that I was directing downtown. No, not really. I mean, because I have all that worked out. I just know.
You've been doing it for so long.
I have that vision in my head. Yeah. So I know exactly what I'm after, and whoever's operating, I've been lucky enough, including yourself, to have some great people that just get it, and you can just say, "Look, this is what I want." Yeah, and that's how I want it. And you get everybody they get it and do it. So no, I don't think about that because I'm generally engrossed in. At that point, I've left the camera. Mm-hmm. I'm not thinking about.
So you're
camera.
able to turn it off.
I mean,
that's what I mean.
I can turn it off. Yeah. Well, there's so much.
Well, especially if you have good people.
There's so much involved. I mean, from directing something, I don't care what anybody says. It's really to do it right.
Well, the other part,
really hard
the
job.
other part of it that I found was it's like the only job on set that everybody thinks they can do better than you.
Yeah.
Well, doing Steadicam, there are very few people who go, I could do that better than him. But you're in a props meeting and you're like, I'll take this knife, and they're like, why do you want that one? It's just like, I obviously have my reasons I can tell you, but I don't know. I'm the one who has to make it work.
I like the look of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I always found directing that, just something I guess I've just learned over the years is I like to now, I like to delegate. So I like to give, same when I'm on camera on the set, I like to give responsibility. I'm not passing the buck, but it's like you're the prop master. Yeah. You know this stuff
better than I do.
And really what would suit the scene better than I do.
What do you think?
So you give me what you think, and if I have to make a choice out of your choices, I'll choose one of what you give me to choose from. Mm-hmm. Unless it's something very specific, which I had on one of the episodes that I did, and there was a woman character. It was one of the last episodes I directed, and it was a seafaring episode. It was so much fun, and I wanted this woman to be a funky character, and I wanted it to be like the red-headed woman in Scooby-Doo, So I had this vision of hair and like very 60s cardigan style with thick brimmed glasses. I had this and the makeup to be very 60s looking. I had a very specific look for her, which I gave to all the departments, and they came with it. And then, somebody kind of said, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. That's and she played that character, and for me,
it worked.
Some people might think it was over the top or whatever, but it was what I was looking for. Yeah, and,
that's great.
And everybody came forth with their ideas, and the actress was fantastic. Yeah.
I want to circle back because I didn't ask you about this earlier. I just realized your dad has a very specific place in the lore of Star Wars. I just to set this table. I remember very specifically after I started ER, I guess just maybe we were talking about it or whatever. You brought in this photo album, and there were pictures of you at Pine Street Studios, like with your dad, and you must have been 5 or 6 or 8 or whatever, on the Millennium Falcon and whatnot, like on the actual sets, and I was just blown away. And then years later, when this thing called the internet comes on, your dad sort of becomes a little bit of an internet star. Can you just tell us about that? Because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, first of all, with the success of Star Wars, I did. I was lucky enough to, and that was out at Elstree Studios.
Oh, Elstree, yeah. Okay.
Which unfortunately is not there anymore. They sold it up some years ago, and it's some
condos or something,
some mall of some sort now. But yeah, it was at EMI Studios, and I guess now I could say I was lucky enough to have gone on the set many times, the Star Wars set. And I always remember, I was kind of fascinated by it because the sets were kind of amazing. Talking to my dad, and he would always kind of say, yeah, thought it was the biggest load of crap he'd ever worked on. And
I don't think he was alone in that, actually.
No,
there were a lot of people.
If you actually...
Alec Guinness said it was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever
and not
done.
only that, the production designer, and if you look at the interviews on one of the DVDs where they asked, key members of the crew about it, they all sort of thought it was going to be...
that seems to be the consensus.
Well, we're here, it's a paycheck.
Exactly.
We're just doing our job
Another
for
crappy movie.
And didn't think anything more of it. But and then interestingly enough, my old man became the guy in the pink shorts, which is just, fortunately, I actually got a smile out of him because fortunately he was still alive.
How old was he when that whole thing came out?
I guess he was probably mid-80s.
Yeah, and I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, and I don't know how you couldn't, there's this great picture outside of the cantina, theoretically outside of the cantina, where they're in the land speeder, and it's the whole, these are not the droids you're looking for, and he's standing there with the boom pole, and he's wearing just sneakers and the pink shorts and nothing else.
That's it. Yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah. I mean, that was very much the era of that time.
But there are people who dress up like him at the conventions
There's
now.
conventions now. It's unbelievable.
It's insane.
People wear the training shoes and the pink shorts, and they've got these fake mini booms.
And did he get a kick out of it?
Oh, totally. Totally, yeah. I mean, he had, towards the end, he had people that would contact him from all over the world that had pictures that they would travel from Australia, New Zealand, other areas. They would come to Whitton, where we lived, and have him and pay him to sign.
Oh my God,
these pictures.
That's so
and
great.
Stuff like, oh yeah, no,
that's so great.
So yeah, which periodically he did, and then of course this started happening with his picture.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden things were happening, and I would make him aware, and he would just laugh.
I just love that in his 80s, he became like an internet sensation for something that literally he didn't even do. He was just like, no, it was hot, so I had my T-shirt off. And
any brick crew, still today, you take any brick crew around the world to a sunny climate,
shirts come off.
First thing they're going to do is strip half naked because they love to burn themselves.
Okay.
And
that's fantastic.
So that has not changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you like the show I did in Africa. As an American, you'd walk on the set and you go, "Oh my God, what's going on? There's these half naked people, various colours of pink, running around all over the set." Well, that's just what the Brits do.
That's what the Brits
They
do.
drink a lot of beer and they love to get burnt in the sun.
That's fantastic.
And so
I remember very specifically when that started making the rounds. I texted you and I said, "Is this your dad?" And you were like, "Oh yeah, that's him."
Yeah,
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's just what a great sort of nod to his career that was.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I mean, he had an amazing rap. People just loved him in the business. Not only did they love him because he was such a great technician, but he was also just a very, very big personality.
Yeah.
He was very well
the
known.
apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Very
so
well known in the business, a really big personality.
That's great.
And so really, that would be his claim to fame. So to have this as the icing on the cake
Absolutely.
is really, which keeps him alive and his tradition going.
100%.
Just makes me laugh.
Yeah,
Just
that's fantastic.
chuckles.
Well, Terence, this has been amazing, and actually I heard a ton of stories I didn't even know, which is great. So thank you, and I'm going to leave you. And actually, you know what? Before I go, what I will say is, just so I officially have it on the podcast, I should thank you for all the help you gave me over the years, because I would not have made it on ER if you had not been backing me up and making sure I knew what to do, and probably sometimes pushing the camera so I pointed in the right way those first couple of weeks or so, because the truth of the matter is I just assumed I was going to do 2 days and get fired, and then 3 days and get fired, and whatever. But you kind of kept me going until I could stand on my own. So officially, I appreciate that and thank you, because it's done fairly well for me.
Without doubt.
But the question that I leave everybody with is advice for someone getting into the business, advice for someone moving into camera operating, advice to yourself 20 years ago that you wish you had done on how to succeed in this business. What do you think?
First and foremost, love it. If it's an unusual business, and it's becoming even more unusual to me as I'm fading out of it. But even with that, this is the most amazing business, the most amazing occupation that you could ever choose to do, and it's a huge commitment. And if you're prepared to make that commitment, and have love for this business, and just learn, respect being a big word, and love this business and love your learning curve throughout this business, you should be all right.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening, and have a great day.